Hi, Verbling. My name's Michaela. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, and today we're talking about modern man. And Saku, welcome to class.
Hi, teacher. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks for asking.
Awesome. Have anything fun planned this week?
No, nothing special. And day is usual, as my life is usual.
All right. Well, I put the article in the chat box. You're welcome to load that up. Before we get to the article, we're going to have some conversation. And the first thing that we'll talk about is how do you think people have changed in the last 100 years? So over the last 100 years, what are the most important changes that have happened in the life of modern people?
I think the modern people now is active than the past, and maybe they work and live faster. Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe they they um, they have envy. They have envious and more and genius.
All right. And are there any special accomplishments you think men can be proud of?
Um, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, how about Adela?
Hello, Michaela.
Hello. How are you, Adela?
Fine, thanks.
Excellent. Good to have you with us to help us have wonderful conversation together. So we were just talking about how life for people has changed in the last 100 years.
Okay.
So what do you think? What are some of the most important changes for the life of people in the last 100 years?
100 is a lot of years, no? Because
Yeah.
there was a lot of difference because the Industrial Revolution has changed the life, the human life. I think to the electricity, to the petrol, explosion motor, internet. I think a lot of news device, etc. Yes.
And what are some of man's greatest accomplishments? Can you think of anything that we as humans should be really proud of?
I don't know if human race is proudest about. I think it's not. Haven't had proudest because it's a good things, but bad use. I think
True.
in general.
Pessimistic.
No.
All right. Thanks, Adela.
Okay.
Rodolfo, welcome to class.
Thanks, teacher. Hi.
So, I put the articles in the chat box for you. You can open it. And while you're opening it, answer the question for us. How has life for people changed in the last 100 years?
Oh, I see. Well, it changed in a lot of ways because We have more technology now, so we can use different ways to communication and transportation that we haven't 10 years ago. So they all mean 100 years ago. And well, I think now we are faster for everything. We can use cell phones, we can use planes, and we have internet, computers, so many things that make our life easier.
Mm.
Um, but that's it.
All right. And are there any accomplishments you think men can be proud of? Any great
Accomplishment.
accomplishments of humans? Could be over any period, not just the last 100 years.
Hmm. Well, there's a lot of accomplishment like vacuums. I don't know how to say it.
Vacuums.
Um, vaccines, vaccines,
Ah, vaccines. Yeah,
vaccines.
that makes sense.
Yeah, vaccines and a lot of medicine to be prepared for a lot of new illness.
Yeah, definitely. Modern medicine is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to go to our article, read a little bit, and then come back for discussion. So, starting, the article called The Modern American Man Charted. So, we're going to be focusing today on people from the United States and men in general. There will also be plenty of information on women, but that'll be our focus. First paragraph, Adela, can you read it for us?
Yes. This summer, all thing considered is looking at the lives of men in America. By some measure, not much has changed over the past few decades. Girls still do better in school and men still make more money in other areas. The shifts are profound.
Thank you very much. Next paragraph, Rodolfo.
We've charted some of the more surprising changes below. It's important to note that in all instances we are depicting the generalized American man, flattened across racial and socioeconomic groups. Looking at the statistics through any of those or other lenses can admittedly provide a different picture.
Thanks.
How
So
do
that's
we
and it. Oh,
how do we say depicting? I wasn't sure
the
of that
word
word.
depicting here.
Oh, yeah, what does that mean?
Good question. Does anybody else know this word already?
No.
So it's like showing a picture of something. So when they say it's important to note that in all instances we are depicting, as in showing an accurate picture of the generalized American man. So they're giving us an idea. They're using abstract words to tell us to describe the American man. Describe would be a good synonym, or show a picture of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thanks.
All right. And they gave us another important piece of information here. Flattened across racial and socioeconomic groups. So what are they telling us with that piece of information?
Well, um, it like American man mash all the social races. I'm not sure.
Kind of. So they're saying that this is for the average American man, even though the experience of an individual might be very different. For instance, depending on your race or your
Socioeconomic.
socioeconomic group, yeah, like if you are very poor, you're going to have a very different experience than a person who is very rich. So
I
they're
see.
saying that they're not looking at those specific groups, they're just looking at the average. So that's what we'll be talking about today. And
Okay.
Saku, can you read the last paragraph here about school?
The cost is well documented that boys don't perform as well in school as girls. It starts early. Girls are more highly verbal as young children, and for developmental and socialization reasons, they tend to adapt better to school environment, which requires sitting still and following direction.
Thank you very much. So before we look at this graph, do you guys have vocabulary questions from these first 3 paragraphs?
What profound? What does it mean?
Ooh,
The
good
shift.
one, the word profound.
Profound.
So in other areas, the shifts are profound.
It's like deep.
Yes, deep, intense.
Deep. Okay.
Yeah, and the specific example they're using here is, by some measurements, not much has changed over the past few decades. So they start by saying that in a lot of ways, nothing has changed, but in other ways, there's a lot of change. The change is profound, very deep.
Okay.
Any
Thanks.
other questions?
Charted.
Good one. Let's see, where is that one?
We have charted in the second paragraph.
In the second paragraph?
Yeah, we've
Yeah, I
charted
see.
some.
Yeah,
The
in
first
the very
sentence.
beginning. Awesome. We've charted some of the more surprising changes. So what is a chart? Let's start by talking about what a chart is.
A map, no?
Could be a kind of map.
Yes.
And what do we use it for? I mean, it's not the kind of map you use to navigate a city. What kind of map is it?
A plan.
A plan,
Like-
kind of related. Any other information here?
It's like a drawing map.
Yeah, has to do with drawing. And what do we draw? What is it that goes on this map?
This is a scheme, no? Or
What?
Scheme? Scheme?
Scheme?
No, I don't know. Scheme? When it's a map, but it's only it's not with very definition. Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. So a chart would be to show data, which is another kind of advanced vocabulary word. But a chart is going to show you something like statistics, or a graph would be one kind of chart. You have a pie chart, which is a big circle, and it will tell you about percentages. So you might be able to say the percentage of the US population that is Jewish. You could do a chart on religion and say the percentages. And that would be a kind of chart. You could also do a chart that points data over time. So you can see how something relates, how many people have phones in 1920 versus how many people have phones in 1940.
It's a
And
same a graphic, no? Too.
yes, it's the same as a graph, but it's a little more general. So
Yeah.
a pie chart tells you about data and information, but it's not necessarily a graph. So it's graphs and a pie chart, anything giving you a lot of information or some kind of picture of information.
It's like a mark.
Okay. Yes, we're going to see a lot of them, and one example is this right here. So below the paragraphs we just read, we have a chart telling us the average high school graduating GPA. What is a GPA?
Global position system is to navigate, to have the position about the satellite, the Navstar.
A GPA?
GPS, no?
GPS. Yes, GPS, you're right. But for this chart, we're looking at the GPA. And what is GPA?
I don't know.
GPA is grade point average. So that's great for men and women in high school. 4 would be a perfect score. So if you have a 4.0 GPA, it's perfect. So below, you can see in overall, women get a 3.1 GPA, which means 3.1 out of 4, and men get 2.9 out of 4. Does that make sense? So 2 would be like 50%, meaning they're earning 50% in their classes. 3 would be something more like a 75% in classes. All right. So this graph, they show us the 4 here. That would be the perfect. But the average is not perfect, of course. So the average is down here. 3.1 for women, 2.9 for men. And that's overall. Then they show us math GPA, 2.73 for women, 2.57 for men. The science category, 2.78 for women, 2.61 for men. In English, 3.01 for women, 2.69 for men. And in social studies, which would be something like science or religion or culture class, would be 3 for women and 2.79 for men. So that's a lot of information. Questions?
It looks like women are better.
In
Yes,
high
it is.
school GPA, that does seem to be women usually have higher GPAs. So let's talk about that for a second. Saku, what do you think about this information?
Yes. Yes. When I see the chart, I think the average grade of the women
Is it
is
surprising?
better. Yes, yeah, it surprised me because I think the grade of men is higher than grade of women.
Yeah. All
I
right.
think I'm wrong.
And Rodolfo, what do you think when you see this chart? Can you think of any reasons that would explain this difference?
Um, I I was thinking that mm, men can be better on maths, but it it shows another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess women are um, are
Or what?
in high school. They have
Mm-hmm.
a, I don't know how to say it.
Yes.
Let me check. Involved on her school that man, because man have many things to do and not
Okay.
only the high school. Maybe that
I
could be a
see.
reason.
So women are more involved with the school activities.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting explanation. Aka, what do you think about this chart?
Yes, I've heard, the women are can get a high score than men in general. I heard of that. Maybe, yeah, one reason, as the student says, yeah, woman is more involving the school, more serious for study in general, not all, but and I don't know, but how can I say the woman's brain is more connected, both both sides of the brain. I don't know the word for that, but the part of the brain which connect two regions, right hand and left hand
Mm-hmm.
side brain. Women has a bigger part of to connect these two brains, so their brains be more flexible than men.
Interesting. Okay. That's another interesting explanation. So, in this particular way, women can flourish more than men in a school situation. All right. And Adela, what do you think when you see this? Are you surprised? Can you think of any explanation for it?
Um, no, I think it's normal because in my experience, uh, normally women are more organized, are more constant, responsible in a moment in your life. After that, I think it's same, no? But it's possible in the school. There are difference, and the normally the best marks in a cars is for women.
Mm. Mm-hmm. All right. So the situation is an advantageous one for women. Okay.
I have another explanation maybe.
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, this is an average, so it could be brilliant man and very lazy man. So the
Ah,
average is there, but maybe there is a man who has four and another has one or less. That's why we
that's
have
another
a
interesting
that's
explanation.
why we have
Yeah.
a poor average.
Yeah, one of the problems with these data is that it gives us the average. We don't get to see exactly where everyone was.
Yeah.
I suppose the statistic is correct about the protocol, and in my college the best normally the best marks uh, are in the girls in general.
Mm-hmm. It's something that's pretty common to see, but it's interesting to look at in this way. All right, great explanations. We have a little more reading below. Adela, can you start with the first paragraph?
By the time high school rolls around, boys are earning worse grades than girls. They have been behind in that regard for decades, averaging about zero point 0.2 GPA points lower since the 1970s. It's interesting to note that although girls perform better in science and math even through high school, they pursue far fewer of the so-called STEM degrees in college.
Thank you very much. Aka, will you read paragraph number 2?
Okay. A 2013 study found that the GPA gap, in part, stems from the fact that many girls enter high school expecting to pursue a higher education degree that will support their career goals. Meanwhile, more boys have set their sights on jobs that do not require advanced degrees and are more likely to opt for vocational programs or the military. Those early outlooks can have a big impact on their grades.
Thank you very much. And the next paragraph is for Rodolfo.
Which brings us to our next chart. Men have been getting fewer bachelor's degrees than women since the mid-1980s, and according to the National Center for Education Statistics, this year marked the first time men earned fewer doctoral degrees than women.
Thank you very much. Do you guys have vocabulary questions before we look at the next chart?
Yeah, far fewer, pursue, far fewer,
Far fewer. Good question.
that fewer.
Here.
And
Oh, it won't let me highlight that part, but I see it. It's over here. Far fewer. So, can anyone explain that phrase, far fewer?
It's possible. Is the America the West when the fever, the golden fever, or in the far west? No.
Okay, well, far, you got far, right? So far is a long distance. But when we say far fewer, we're talking about like a great amount, a great number. But when we say fewer, we're talking about a great deal less. So they pursue far fewer of the STEM degrees, means that there's a great deal of a smaller amount. It's comparing the fact that women generally perform better in classes in science and math, but they don't actually apply that to their career. So in professional scientists and professional mathematicians are very rarely women. There's fewer of them. Small number.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Any other vocabulary questions?
No,
yes. Oh,
Does anybody know that word already?
Kind of tendency.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. A
Have
tendency
tendency.
a tendency to choose something in this particular example.
Mhm.
So they have a tendency to choose vocational programs or the military. All right. Then our next chart graphs the percentages of people with bachelor degrees, comparing men and women. So the blue line is men, the orange line is women.
The
And
tendency.
mhm,
No, sorry. The tendency has changed. The
yeah,
opposite. Yes.
definitely.
60%, 40, 40, 50. Yes.
Yeah, in the past 50 years or so, things have totally flipped. Does anyone have a comment on this chart before we go on and read a little more?
It's a
it
little
looks
strange.
like
What did you say, Adela?
It's a little strange. Men, I mean, are decreased in same percentage, the women are increase. It's
Anyone else have a comment here?
It looks like there was a very change. Men were men were uh, smarter in the 60s than now.
this.
All
Maybe
right.
it might reflect, in the past, women was difficult to access to the education, higher education. But nowadays, women can get more opportunity to get higher education. So their desire they have more desire than men to get a higher education nowadays.
Could be that motivation. All
This
right. Yeah.
1980, no, is the change to the tendency.
Yeah, that's when it was about even, right about the same level. All right. And do you guys have any predictions as to what will happen in the future? Do you think these lines will continue to increase? Do you think they will even out and go back down and meet each other in the middle? What are your predictions?
I think in the future the man and the woman is equal. I think it's 50% for both.
All right. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay. Before we go on, I want to remind you guys that while you're not speaking, try to remember to mute yourselves. That way we don't have too much background noise happening while people are reading. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's read a little more. This time under young adulthood, we're starting with Saku. Can you read the first paragraph for us?
Okay. The poor job market in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis keep more young men at home after they turn 18. Additionally, the Pew Research Center says that because men also tend to take longer to finish college, college and marry later than the female fear, they are more likely to stick around the parents' house. In 2012, 40% of millennial men aged 18 to 31, 31 live at home, and roughly 26% of them resided in the multi-generational household.
Thank you very much. And the next paragraph, Rodolfo.
An important note about our chart, because the U.S. Census Bureau counts college students who live in dorms as living at home, we isolate the 25 to 34 years old here to provide a clearer picture of who's still at home after most people their age have finished college, if they attended.
Thank you very much. Questions on this vocabulary before looking at the chart? All right. If you guys do
Census,
think, oh,
census,
good
census.
question. Okay, what is a census? Does anybody know that already?
It's like a count,
Yes, it is a count. It's sort of like a
population.
survey, yeah, of population. So in this case, every few years, actually every year really, they send out a survey, and to every household in the US, it says things like, who's living at your house. You have to say how many men, how many women, and you have to say how old they are. You have to say what race they are. You have to say a lot of information, religion maybe. And so they collect information about American people. And then they create these statistics and say this percentage of the population has this much money, and this percentage, so this percentage is poor, this percentage is rich. And they talk a little bit more about the populations in the US that way.
Thank you.
Any other vocabulary questions?
No.
All right. If you guys think of any, you're also welcome to put them in the chat box for us to go over in a little bit. But in the meantime, let's look at this chart. This one is adults aged 25 to 34 living at home between the years 1983 and 2013. We've got men and women, and they give us little bars to represent periods of economic recession, which I think is really interesting to look at as well, to see if during recession people left home more or not. So let's get some thoughts on this. Aka, what do you think of this chart?
Kind of, yeah, maybe always men are stay at home more than women. Maybe women has one solution, marriage.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're right.
Seems like that.
Yeah, that's probably a big factor here. At first, I was very surprised as well, but I think marriage probably does play a big part. Does anybody else have thoughts on this chart or what it says?
Or in the recession periods, there is an increase on women to stay at home a little, just a little, but the line grow up in that period in 1999, and in the 2000 there is an up to, but in the last recession period it decreased and then it increased.
Yeah. So we have some interesting relationships here with the recession. We saw an increase, and then in the recession in 2008, we actually saw a slight decrease, but then an increase again. So
Yeah. And I have Aka has right, is right, and woman get married faster than man, so they leave home.
yeah, I agree. That must be a big part of this graph.
I guess because they become mothers, and that's why.
Definitely. Could be. All right. Next paragraph, I think it is Aka's turn to read. Can you read that one for us?
Okay, as previously noted, men tend to get married later than women, and both groups continue to delay the milestone event. Furthermore, fewer Americans are married today than at any point in the past 50 years. The decline is especially notable for men in low and middle-income groups, whose earnings have uh, stagnated stagnated or declined in the past few decades. More on the below. A 2012 report by the Hamilton Project at Brookings Institution found that only half of the poorest men in America are married today, compared with 86% in 1970.
Thank you very much. Vocabulary questions from this paragraph?
Milestone
Oh, good one. Milestone. Does anybody know the word milestone already?
Yes,
What is a milestone?
kind of important event or the kind of the how can I say this event divide the time or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So what would be a good example of a milestone event?
Beatles debut. Yeah, got popularity. Yeah, that's a milestone in a pop culture and music
Yeah,
or
sure.
lifestyle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Marked a big changing in the pop scene and the music scene in general. So that would be a milestone. Or in a person's specific life, we could say marriage is a milestone. Maybe the birth of your first child is a milestone. Moving out of your house would be a milestone. Some kind of important event that changes the future. Any other vocabulary questions from this paragraph?
No, it's it.
Awesome. Then we have another chart. The average age at first marriage between the years 1947 and 2013. Men in blue and women in orange. Any thoughts on this graph or how it relates to the last graph?
Yeah, it looks the chart shows a cultural change of the century because in 50s women get married all younger than now because they hadn't the freedom than they have now. Then we have more um, laws than they are not discriminate like in the past.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Any other thoughts on this graph?
And before the 1950, the men's percentage higher than uh, 50s or 60s. Probably World War II reflect this high percentage in my presumption.
What? Sorry, repeat your suggestion.
Second World War II.
Ah, interesting. Yes, I bet you're right. Yeah, if we had a few more years back, we might even be able to see a more distinct pattern there. But you're right, that would be a huge explaining factor for that.
Mm.
Interesting. All right. So let's go on to work. And Adela, it's your turn to read this paragraph.
Okay. American men still have higher incomes than women and earn about 19% more. However, there are some cities in the US like Atlanta and Memphis where young single-childless women make more than similar men, largely because those men have less education. And across the country, fewer men are breadwinners. Today, 40% of moms provide the sole or primary source of household income.
Thank you very much. So vocabulary questions. We have some interesting vocabulary here. One of the most important words we have is breadwinners.
Yeah, breadwinners.
What is a breadwinner? Does anybody know?
This is the person who earn in a family.
Yeah, like the majority money earner for a family. So even if both people work, you usually have one person that their job is mainly working, and the other person that their job is mainly taking care of the house or doing other things. Any other vocabulary questions? All right.
No,
I find this to be one of the most interesting charts we have. It's the median income by gender, 1947 to 2012. So, what's the median?
Kind of average or
Similar to an average, but it's not exactly the same.
mhm. Middle class?
Yeah,
median
it's
is statics mark.
mhm. It's the middle number. So if we have like a list of 10 numbers and we have 5 ones, we'll say we have 4 ones and five um, 5 twos, and then one like 1.5. The median might be 1.5. It's the middle, or the average of the most middle numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You need to
All
put
right.
in order is in the middle, no?
Yes, exactly. You put all the numbers in the order from least to greatest, and then you choose the number right exactly in the middle.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got men in blue, women in orange, and periods of economic recession in gray. So this
There
would be
was
median income by gender.
there
Hmm?
was a there was a very high increase on 70s
Mm-hmm.
or man,
Mm-hmm.
uh, maybe because that's the in that years many companies open uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they get more money.
Yeah, surge in the economy. Things were going well during that period. No wars or anything like that.
Yeah,
Definitely. I think it's also interesting to see that the difference in pay between men and women has been fairly consistent from the 50s until now. It really hasn't changed much.
Mm. And since men's income is more than women, maybe it changes more dynamically.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
That's
when
also
the
true.
recession happens, maybe company cut down the maybe kind of uh, higher priced, higher income person or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So you can see the man's chart is really volatile, up and down and up and down and up and down. And the woman's one is a little more stable. It's lower but stable.
Mm. Maybe because maybe for every country has a minimum wage, so maybe even the recession company cut the low income person's salary.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally. So if they're working minimum wage jobs, their salary is going to increase when the minimum wage increases. Mhm. Okay. Any other thoughts on this graph?
well, if we compare this chart with the last ones, maybe in the future women income more money because they are more graduate more women now than man.
Yeah, as the number of breadwinners that are female increase, we should also
Yeah,
hope to see that their salaries increase. Otherwise, it will be overall a problem, probably. Definitely. All right. Let's read one more paragraph and we'll look at one more chart before we finish up and have a little ending discussion. And Rodolfo, can you read this last paragraph for us?
when you break apart the median male income figure by the education levels, this picture is how can I spell that? Staggering.
Staggering.
Staggering. Men with professional degrees, like doctors and pharmacists, make 5 times as much as those who haven't finished high school. A 2011 Brookings analysis of census data found that for men without a high school diploma, median annual earnings have actually declined by 66% since 1969 after accounting for inflation.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments on this paragraph? How about the word staggering?
Staggering, yeah.
What's something that's staggering? Does anybody know this word already?
It's amazing, no?
Yeah, something amazing, very surprising, astonishing would be a good synonym. Any other questions? Okay.
No?
Then we have another chart down here, the median income for men by educational attainment. And this is in 2012. I'm not sure what the different colors represent, though. Maybe poverty or something. So we have professional degree, doctorate degree, master's degree, bachelor's degree, associate's degree, a little bit of college, high school diploma, some high school, and less than high school.
Uh, What is associate degree?
An associate's degree is a 2-year degree. It's like the first 2 years of college. Some people go to a special school that only does those first 2 years. So you can get it's like being halfway to a college degree. You can go on to get your bachelor's degree, or you can stop at 2 years.
Mm. Now, what is the difference between college degree and bachelor degree?
Oh, it's for it's the same thing. College and
Oh,
university are pretty
yeah.
synonymous. So
Mhm.
when I say a college degree, I mean a bachelor's degree.
I see.
Any other questions or comments on this graph?
Well, who study more, earn more.
Definitely. Study more, earn more, that makes sense. And there's not much difference between someone who stopped before high school and someone who stopped during high school.
Yeah.
So there's a pretty big gap there between people who have almost no education and people who have at least some, like their high school diploma. All right. So, do you guys have any overall questions or comments? There's plenty
Mm.
more for you guys to look through if you're interested. I
Yeah,
find a lot of this data fascinating, but we
yeah,
don't have time
uh,
for it today.
kind of how can I say brain kind of main income person in Atlanta is a bit different from other area of United States. Why the South? That happening in the South?
Why?
Yeah. Mm. I does it mention will it maybe it's not mentioned it was not mentioned in this article.
So, I'm sorry, your question is what?
Kind of the main income person in a family
Mhm.
in Atlanta
Ah,
area, it's a local difference. Yeah, maybe.
yes, they talked a little bit about in Atlanta and Memphis
Mhm.
when women without children who have a college degree are about equal or maybe a little above men of an equal thing. But yeah, I think it's really local and it depends on the place.
Mm,
This is just an average of all of them, I think.
mhm. I see.
Any other comments or questions before we finish up today?
No, I have no questions.
All
Thanks for the
right.
class.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you all again soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
See
Bye
you.
bye.
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 Adela, where do you